now 12 minutes past 8 o'clock. My name is Ifeemi Andrew, and today, democracy is not working in Nigeria. Challenges to the democracy of this country. We've had Archbishop Coker, former Governor, His Excellency Peter Odili, and so on and so forth, all speaking and expressing their concerns about the democracy that's not working in the country. If some people say, well, we're retrogressing rather than making progress. It has not been perfect at all from time, but for some, the truth is it is better where we were than where we are now. And all of this is premised on what is happening in Rivers State at the moment. I mean, the state of emergency, the declaration of it, how it was declared, the process involved, the assembly, and a lot of things that a lot of people have put into perspective, especially one that caught the attention of many, which was the proverb that was put out by former President Goodluck Jonathan when he said, "It is easier to wake a person that is sleeping, but very, very difficult to wake a person that is pretending to sleep." And so, in that light, he said, that's where we are with the arms of government. We're talking both the legislature, we're talking the executive, we're talking the judiciary. And for many, that's a huge problem. It's been a problem always talked about, but then it seemed to be gathering much more momentum this time. Which brings us to this fundamental question I would want to ask. The idea of strengthening democracy, to strengthen democracy, is it a job of the leaders or of the people? Who is most responsible and should be looking at strengthening democracy the most? Is it the leaders or the people? This question has been asked by many. Some people have even said Nigeria is walking on ice, and we need to be careful, because for some, Burkina Faso started like this, and we all know where they are now. And now they're by many legal minds. I think I can't find. I've tried to look at finding one or two legal minds that would say that. I haven't come across any. I think I'll talk institutional backing to the argument that the officers government. I'm talking the executive, governor, and the assembly members. If you have that argument, please, I'd like to have it. So I see I've searched for many. Aside, I've seen, not to say I haven't seen people that say, it is constitutional, but constitutional provision that shows the backing for why this was done, and where it says this can be done. Because for many, it is clearly spelled out how and even this is better because what's coming was an impeachment. Is impeachment bad? It is constitutional, at least. So why not allow it? Why not let the armed government job and the contract? Fuck you, and I'll ask again. The people or the leaders? The people or the leaders? So Obasanjo says democracy has failed because it lacks African content. And there are those that have even argued for a constitutional review. And I would agree to those people with that opinion to some degree. There is even the popular saying, in their opinion, is what those in the echelon of power have used to fence themselves in and keep the people out. So it basically works for the people. There are those that have argued differently. There are even some that said that what happens is the law. The rule of law does not work. It is just the law that they look. I mean, you would have diverse opinions about these things. When you look at people, can you look at the people and say, yes, that this democracy is working for them? Some will say, if not for democracy, you would not be talking. Some people you will not be able to express your opinion. You would not be able to do this and do that. Some have even described it as civilian dictatorship. The names are just enormous if we want to go down that line. But, is it really retrogressing? I mean, democracy. Well, that's a question. At least that's what Obasanjo thinks. That's what Peter Obi thinks. That's what Coker thinks. That's what Tamboa thinks. That's what former President Goodluck Jonathan thinks. That's what a lot of people think. And this conversation, because I'm going to the phone lines, it's not for some of them who were there discussing is what they're doing. Because we all knew that they were there. Democracy was also not very good. It wasn't very good. And one of the arguments was the tools available to work with hinders the growth of democracy. And the only thing that will make that different if we are to work with that tool, which is the Constitution, would be having a person that has a conscience. And if a person doesn't have a conscience and does not really care about the people, he would make excuse with the provisions that are in the tool that he's working with to guide himself to be able to carry out some of the acts that he would carry out, because there are flaws in that tool that he's working with. So if not, then we should have a better tool to work with, so that whether the person has a conscience or not, that tool would have to hold him. Clearly, in a country that we're in now, is one that believes more in strong individuals and not strong institutions. That's a weak person. I've seen that comment a lot of this. Because I don't understand, is it largely because, well, the individual doesn't use their powers to maim, damage by force? All of these things I'm saying are things that people say they don't. Unfortunately, if they have somebody who does it, described as weak, which brings us back to the question: is it really the people or the leaders who really is responsible for strengthening this democracy? In fact, do the people even understand what this democracy really means and how it works? In Obasanjo's words again, it has failed the last content. There's that the people get the leaders deserve. And I agree with that to a large extent. The people get the kind of leadership they deserve, because how the people think, how the people operate, how the people function on a day-to-day basis, that is what informs the decision they make, the choices that they make with regards to how their leaders emerge and who their leaders become. You cannot say it was rigged. It is difficult to say it was rigged because it was still from the people that you had people that rigged it, if it was rigged. If the people that understand are way more, possibly the tendency of that rigging would not have worked. Unfortunately, it's not the case. The people, do they even know they are right? So it's back and forth. Others will say it's the leaders. Now they've gotten into these offices, they become something else, and they try to cut for the job. Well, we'll get your thoughts about it. On Facebook, it's at Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. That's the handle for those of us who are watching online. Is democracy dying in Nigeria? Do you share the same perspective? Let us know. Democracy in this country, as at WhatsApp number 0809 0306416. WhatsApp number 0809 0306416. Nidam stand. Sure for it. Let military take over power now. Now, this part of it you just said is another question I was going to bring after. There are some that have argued that the military rule was better. Just might be a path that could lead to that eventually. There's Nigeria Funda sent in that one. This Rafuan says, since Jonathan left office, it retarded drastically. Nika comes and says, there's never been democracy in Nigeria, not to talk of even being dead or alive. Peter, in Nigeria, how will something die when if you kind of meant that you'd have that it leads to strengthening democracy of the people? We'll find out from you after take your call and getting your thoughts. Still in share with regards to some of the comments made by the speakers from that event. Stay with us.
Stay with us.
Good morning. We continue with the conversation, and we go to the phone line to get your thoughts. Former President Obasanjo says democracy is not working because it lacks African content. Those have said then that, well, we have to look at our constitution. It has to be written by us, for us, and look at the peculiarities of our people. There are those that argue that the constitution we have was designed by those within the corridors to keep themselves in. And from time to time, they find a way to manipulate, interpret, uninterpret. Sometimes it is clearly written what is, but then you wonder why. Say when you go to court, it has to pause it from happening. There are many things that you see in the system that you would agree with me, if you are being honest with yourself, that politicians have begun to use. And the accusations has even affected some members of the judiciary to say they find these loopholes and find these things and use them to twist, which brought me to even one time coin a political space of this country. And for some, that has contributed largely to why some have lacked trust system in people, in name it, however you want to color it. This is anyways. So then, because stakeholders are beginning to learn the first time in these conversations, it has only become more intense now after what we have in Rivers State, regards to the state of emergency, and with the Supreme Court judgment and the president's broadcast. Remember, in the president's broadcast, he had said that of the has decided that was the exact word he used. But I'm trying to say in context what he meant was an arm of government, which was the legends about democracy. It meant two arms of government. So now from 1, 2 is in front. People make arguments on that line. Then it's really spelled democracy or help. There are very different opinions to this. There has to that we can now from the scratch starting and try to have individuals. The question would then be, whose interests would they be putting first when they are doing this structuring? The part of the conversation. 0817.
A radio station inclusive of your own. You will call into it because of your stand. Somebody who is
nobody ever dropped you because of your stand. And I don't know how you came to a conclusion, or the panel you set up, that came. No, Gift, I have to interrupt you there because what you're saying is malicious. You would agree with me. No, I would tell you what is right, and you would agree with me. No, I would tell you what is right, and you would listen. You cannot say on your own. Allow me finish. I would finish the point I'm making. You cannot sit in your wherever you are making your call and assume that somebody dropped your call because of your stand. We are too busy to do that. We're too busy to have time to do that. Your stand is your stand. As long as you are not speaking out of terms or whatever else, you have the freedom to speak. That's number one. Number two, listen, Gift, I have to take my time and address this information. And number two, you also should realize this. There are a million people trying to call in every single day you have a show. So you don't think it is your sole right to make sure that every single day yours must go through. It is not. There are days that yours might not go through. There are other mediums through which you can get to us. You can go and send a WhatsApp message. You can go on Facebook and drop a comment. You can go on X and drop a comment. You can go on Facebook and drop a comment. You can go on X and drop a comment. It mustn't be that, my call, then the day your call is not taken, the next thing is somebody is politically witch-hunting me. We don't involve in that, so please let that not come up. And that goes to any other person who has that in mind.
Now, the reason why I said it is all of us. A situation where Obasanjo and Peter Obi are crying that democracy is dying. I don't think democracy is dying. Once we call ourselves to order and tell ourselves the gospel truth, and that hard fact, that's one of your programs that is so powerful, hard fact, looking at the face of Gift and telling Gift the truth, looking at the face of Andrew the truth, the same thing Tinubu as our president, same thing with the suspended governor. Then Nigerian democracy will be strengthened and it will move forward. But when we are telling ourselves lies and refusing to face the reality, then I'm telling you, this democracy, it will not go anywhere. African value that he's talking about, democracy is not built on African value. So I don't agree with him. This is a man that came to OD, decided to use military style to destroy OD. He's the one that is telling me about democracy. We should forget about all this story. It's just to see how they will push this president out of office. But
All
I
right,
think
Gift. Thank you
it
very
is
much.
one
Let's
of
go
the
to JJ and Rumigbo now quickly.
Yes, thank you.
JJ, good morning.
Andrew, good morning. Andrew, do you remember the COVID era where they said nobody should come out, everybody wear masks if you have essential duty and all those? Andrew, who bring those rules? Was it not the leaders? Was it not the leaders? If you don't wear masks at that time, what happened to you? I remember former governor was moving around, anybody is seeing, they say, arrest him. I don't know if you understand. So if democracy is dying, it is those who are running the democracy that cause the death. I tell you a typical example. Remember Lawa and even this Akpabio. Akpabio bought form to contest to become president. He didn't buy Senate form. The Senate primaries has already been done. I think he withdrew for the this president right now that is showing his support. How did Akpabio, meanwhile the state of form has closed though, how did Akpabio and Lawa now became senatorial candidates after they made a law in the Electoral Act that he found himself in the Senate, himself and Lawa? So those who also say they are maintaining the democracy are the ones manipulating it and killing it at the end of the day. Look at the president. If it were in the U.S. or advanced world, people would have calling for him to declare now was based on things that are not true. I don't want to say lies.
Andrew, I think it's glaring to everyone that democracy is dead and buried, especially the current cabal that we have at the center. They were even pleading for him not to be impeached. You understand? So if you look at all the variables that we have currently on ground, it shows you clearly. I honestly, Andrew, I don't want to bet, but I can, because with what I'm seeing, everything is pointing to the fact that we are returning back to the old days. Like you say,
Bender, Thank you. Victor Eniwofe, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, we are talking about Nigeria. I am asking myself, is there democracy in Nigeria? I'll give an example. From Rivers State to Sokoto to Maiduguri, you will conduct election, and one party calls election. If the moment we talk about election,
so you understand people to win all the seats if voted by the people, because it is democracy doesn't mean one party. Let's make
what is
different system. All right, Victor, thank you. What the point I'm making is, if you are looking at the system, all right, in Nigeria, and that is what you are judging with, because of how we know what happens in the system and what we have seen on the field during elections, you would understand what you're saying. But I'm saying because it is democracy does not mean that it is a must that different parties must occupy. It's very possible in situation they tell that people and they win. A party cannot win everywhere. That's what I'm saying. It don't right is possible. Although and what we have seen past and the return that it becomes hard to believe. Yeah. Good morning.
Yeah, tell me, that I am victim of that circumstance.
You're not a victim.
Okay, because something that a system that you first you believe on and condemn it. To me, we see that a police cannot just arrest you anyhow. You know, they're very young. In a situation whereby somebody simply recording all the order, or somebody can just go in his room and declare a speech of people vacant. You understand? All these things we're talking about. Now, as it starts now, we are learning. If you're there now, there are things you are also learning.
But Chima, what you have said now, is it not the same reason why, Chima, is it not the same reason why people are saying that the president cannot just suspend the lawmakers or the governor for whatever reason because it's unconstitutional? Is it not the same thing we're saying?
Mr. Femi, you and I knows when that thing happened that the president read from the Constitution, Section 305.
Does it say that suspend? Did it say that you can suspend elected officers and arms of government?
Yes, you can. I will forward you the information.
That is what 305 said. Wow, okay.
The
me, when there is a crisis or threat to life, that cannot send that the governor and the administrator should work together. It's a place where and the assembly is being called out, and the threat was on behalf of the governor. You understand? So you bring in an administrator that should work with the governor, that the threat is on his behalf. Then I don't know what you are doing there. You understand? Even let us look at it critically. You cannot tell me, you want to talk about democracy, then somebody will become a dictator. Do you know if not call democracy, because it's a dictator. That is not, it is unequivocal.
All right, Chima. I think, okay, thank you very much, but I don't think he would have been in prison, number one. And number two, he's not a dictator, he was elected. If there are constitutional breaches, like I've said, if there are constitutional breaches, and there were talks about impeachment, why did the government not allow the impeachment? And I heard, who was saying it? I can't remember now, saying, this one is even to save the situation and save the governor. I don't think the governor said he wanted. So if there is an impeachment following due process, why wasn't that impeachment allowed? Because that impeachment is constitutional. And then, Chima, to correct you so you do not move out with the wrong perception. Section 305 of the Nigerian Constitution does not in any place say or give the governor, does not mention in any way has powers to suspend a governor or members of the House of Assembly. The situations or circumstances for suspension, you cannot send. And again, to correct you again, don't go back and say that, Jonathan, the declare state. The president has the powers to declare state of emergency. Let's understand this. He has the powers constitutionally to declare a state of emergency. But does he have the powers to suspend elected leaders who were elected just like he was? That's where the argument is lied. And people are saying democratically, if we look at the constitution that governs us, that should not happen. And that is what has also...
I think we should understand that there are certain things that are better said in the beer parlor. And for me, your platform is a well-structured platform that should always uphold the truth. But let us look at the issues being discussed without anger and atmosphere where there is rule of law. It is from rights of every individual. Now, let us ask ourselves, are we truly practicing democracy in this country? We are elected office holders opposing the Senate because they don't agree with the position of the Senate president. Are we truly practicing democracy? For me, I think what they have said is the absolute truth. Democracy is on a slippery slope in this country. And unless we do something about it as a people, we'll continue to be in this particular lane until democracy is completely killed in Nigeria.
Very much. You can 2.10. Everybody has put some agree, some disagree. At the end of the day, one thing stands. Do you believe leader? My name is Ifeami Andrew. After the commercial, Hello Port Harcourt comes in after the news at 9. Good morning.
Nigeria